The IPL, Indian Premier League, is a buzzword today. The auctions are around the corner and all the 10 teams have announced the players that they retained. They will look to add the rest at the auction table, of course. Exciting weeks then coming up for everyone, but the retention news itself has given us many things to talk about and reflect upon, with an indication of what the teams will look like come IPL next year. What is their intention heading into the auction? We'll get to see it all unfold, but the retention is the starting point, so let me dive right in. We'll start with the team that always hogs the headlines, Chennai Super Kings. The Chennai franchise announced their retained players with some pomp and show. And yes, even when it was not supposed to be about him, it did end up being just that. MS Dhoni has been retained as the 5th player for a paltry $490,000. The franchise clearly making use of that uncapped player rule that has been brought back after 2021 when it was first scrapped, which is that Indian players who have not featured in international cricket for 5 years prior to the season can be picked as an uncapped player. Of course, this garnered its fair share of reactions. The other players to be retained, pretty self-explanatory, very predictable. Ruturaj will be the captain. Ravindra Jadeja, pretty much another player looking to finish his career in CSK itself. Matisha Patirana, the Sri Lankan who has been groomed in that void that DJ Bravo left. And of course, Shivam Dube. They have an option to right to match, an RTM option. As per the rules, 6 players can be retained by the franchise. And if they retain less, then the remaining spot or spots left remaining can be used as an RTM. They will look to probably use that for Rachin Ravindran come the auction, the prolific New Zealand batter with Indian roots. And moving on swiftly, of course, to the other team that's also buzzing, Mumbai Indians. The franchise released a photo that went viral, of course. This one with Hardik Pandya in the centre, flanked by some very big names in Indian cricket, Rohit Sharma, Jasprit Bumrah, Surya Kumar Yadav, and of course, promising youngster who captained the India A side, Tilak Verma. All Indian retention, indicating that they will persist with Hardik at the helm for another year. Here's the interesting point to note, though, the monies. Jasprit Bumrah is the one who's been paid the most here. He's retention number 1. Not much of a difference in the monies between the other leaders in the core, Hardik, Rohit and Surya. Let's not forget, he is the captain of the Indian shorter formats teams. Now, it says something. Even though Pandya will continue to captain the side, the negotiations have ensured that the leadership core is assured of their importance and their relevance in that lineup. As simple as that. Keeping everyone happy. That seems to have worked, at least for this franchise. They have one RTM option left and uncapped. They can use that to get back someone like Akash Madhwal, who's impressed with the ball, or someone like Nehal Vadera. Ishan Kishan's rope seems to have run out, like it has in the national setup. Next up, Bengaluru. Very frugal with their retentions. Just 3 players managed to have been retained. Virat Kohli for a whopping $2.56 million. Rajat Patidar and Yash Dayal wrap that up. They truly believe in these 2 talents to get them to be retained. The big news is Virat Kohli is set to come back as captain of the franchise. We're of course waiting for official confirmation on that, but that's what people would lead to believe. That's going to be a big major turnaround for this franchise, which perfectly leads me to Sunrisers Hyderabad. 2 reasons. They of course pipped Bengaluru in terms of the money spent on their first retainee, and they have retained their captain, who took them to the final last year. They have retained 5 players, no surprises there. The number 1 retention, Henry Klaasen. He's broken the bank, $2.8 million, the highest amongst the list of other retainees for the batter who almost got South Africa to get that across the line at the T20 World Cup against India. The other 4, very, very predictable. Pat Cummins, the captain, Nitish Kumar Reddy, Abhishek Sharma and his opening partner, Travis Head. Hyderabad getting their homework part wrapped up neatly. We'll of course move to the 2 teams who have decided not to retain their captains. First off, Kolkata Knight Riders. Let's look at that players that they've retained. Rinku Singh gets top honours here, predictably so, player for the future, and one of their match winners really. So too Sunil Narayan and Varun Chakravarti. They were key in KKR's title-winning performance in the last season. The other two players also very predictable. They have used up all their retention spots. The big kicker here, they've left their captain Shreyas Iyer out. Bold decision that, and yes, Shreyas has had a bit of a torrid last few months, resulting in BCCI scrapping his central contract. No RTMs available, so a new captain and a new coach will lead Kolkata next year. The most interesting auction table could be theirs. Which other captain, of course, go into the auction pool? That of Delhi Capitals and Lucknow Super Giants. Let's look at Delhi first. Rishabh Pant has been released. Yes, that's the big news there with this particular franchise. A big player to get back into the auction pool, especially with the role that he plays, a keeper bat and a potential leadership material for many franchises waiting for a captain to take charge. There is much to look at here. Delhi has gone on to retain Akshar Patel, a big deal this for this all-rounder, Kuldeep Yadav, Tristan Stubbs, of course, a very promising youngster that, and Abhishek Porel. They are the retentions, which leaves them 2 slots for RTM options. Do they do that to get back Pant, or is there a different mindset or approach that they will attempt to shape here? Then, of course, let's move on to the next franchise, Lucknow, whose tense relationships with KL Rahul seems to have spilled over neatly here. He has not been retained. Let's see who they've decided to persist with for the 2025 edition. Nicholas Puran goes for the topmost billing. Not been too consistent, but somehow is the biggest star power in that squad. They have 4 other retentions in Ravi Bishnoi, Mayank Yadav. Of course, they wouldn't want to let go of this particular find. Ayush Badoni and Mohsin Khan, some young Indian talents there to round off that list. This also leaves them with an right to match option, which will come in handy depending on who they wish to bring back into that fold. But what has got everyone talking post these retentions is what the owner Sanjeev Goenka ended up saying right after.
It was a simple mindset to go in with players who have a mindset to win, who put the team before their personal goals and personal aspirations, and we wanted to retain as much as of the core we could.
The bitter fallout that the two had during last season was there for everyone to see right after that game against Hyderabad, which they lost terribly. The makeup too was well published, making all this a very dramatic affair for KL Rahul possibly to handle. Last 3 teams for us to reflect on and review. Let's get into it with Rajasthan Royals, the team that has been so near and yet so far in the hunt of their 2nd title. The retention clearly shows that Rajasthan knows what they like. They will make no bones about it, and they have gone ahead to keep those players close to them. They have retained their captain, of course, Sanju Samson, their best batter, Yashasvi Jaiswal, Riyan Parag, the persistence with whom paid off for them last season. Dhruv Jurel, again, a very promising young potential. Shimron Hetmeyer, of course, who's come good, and Sandeep Sharma. Reliables and players who have given them some memorable, important wins in the last few seasons. What a good, clean, transparent retention this looks like, which leaves them with no right to match options or cards left. They may have had to fight off the Joss Butler miss and may want to go back again for him, probably. The other miss, Yuzvendra Chahal. One team where there are so many you want to retain but run the danger of losing. Of course, on to Gujarat Titans next, a team that started off their journey on a high with a win in the inaugural season and a finish in the final in the next, but then of course relinquished their captain to a trade-off. Here's what they look like after a very average last season. They've retained their skipper, of course, Shubman Gill. They clearly want to build a team around him. They have retained the talismanic Rashid Khan, no doubts there, and then the talented youngster on the rise, Sai Sudarshan, very smart pick. They've also retained the big-hitting all-rounder Shah Rukh Khan, again from Tamil Nadu, and Rahul Tewatia, again another slogger at the end, leaving them with one right to match card. Maybe for Mohammad Shami, his fitness still will be a very key talking point to discuss in that team, and of course David Miller, who was instrumental in their journey, initially at least, but had a very quiet last season. The last team rounding this off, the team that has the most purse, the heaviest purse heading into the auction, Punjab Kings. They will be the troublemakers at the table. No second guessing here. They have plenty of money to splurge and play around, and especially with this retention list. They have retained just 2 players, Shashank Singh, the right Shashank Singh. He was one of the highlights of their very mercurial campaign last year. Flashes of brilliance, but key moments lost. The second retention is that of Prabhsimran Singh, which means there will be yet another massive overhaul of what this team could go on to look like. They need a brand new squad with a brand new captain too at the helm. That is what the teams at the moment kind of look to resemble. The mega auction will see some more battles in a month, some weeks from now, as there will be a few teams wanting to completely do a U-turn on what they have gone with so far. And then, of course, the teams with the tried and tested formulas who will have to fight it out to keep things smooth in their ranks, all leading up to a very exciting auction.
First Post decodes the U.S. election, explains how America chooses its president. Your primer on the race to the White House. Everything you need to know about how America votes and its global implications. U.S. Election Explained. Every Monday and Thursday only on First Post.